The B-B-E-Jaguars girls basketball team picked up a huge road win in Central Minnesota Conference action tonight, winning 46-40 at Atwater-Cosmos-Grove City. ACGC is having a turnaround season by far, with a core of strong underclassmen and one really outstanding senior player. And they were 7-3 coming into this game. They had picked up a big win over KMS, a non-conference win over KMS last Saturday at the Target Center, beating the Fighting Saints by 1 point. Their Ruby Klinger had 24 points in that game. But tonight, the Jaguars played incredible defense. 19-19 halftime score. The Jaguars struggled at times. Coach Anderson said tonight that it was ugly at times, but sometimes you got to win ugly. And that was the case at ACGC High School. The Jaguars had 9 players get in the scorebook, which is an outstanding number. 7 players made at least 1 field goal, and 2 players made 1 free throw each. But I tell you what, in a 1-possession game, every free throw and every field goal is important. They are magnified. So every player, even your reserves, they all mattered tonight. They needed everything they had to overcome the Falcons on the road. It's a huge win. ACGC, I'd have to look back, and I don't want to jinx it either because we still got to play them, but it's been many years since they've beaten us in girls basketball. And this is a year where they have the talent to do that. So credit to the Falcons for having that, for getting getting this turnaround season going. I know they're a very motivated bunch, and it took everything we had to win tonight. And we've kept we have a small win streak going. The girls basketball team has won 3 games in a row now. But this was back to this win. 9 players score, led by Brooklyn Fisher, 17 points. Bree T-Schaefer with 9. Bree had 8 rebounds. Brooklyn 7 rebounds. As a team, they only had 11 turnovers. They collected 10 steals. 23 defensive rebounds, so 33 rebounds. That's huge. And my theme for this podcast is making everyone feel important. And how do you do that in a sports team or even in a school system? That's an age-old question, and it's very important in today's times where anxiety and depression seem to be running out of control in teenagers especially. But at B-B-E, we want everyone to feel valued and important. So in a sports program, that's very important because you need depth and turnout. You got to be able to overcome the occasional injury that comes along. We're seeing that. It's a great example, and it's not great. Injuries aren't great. That's not what I'm saying. But in our 7th grade girls basketball team, they have, let me think here, they have 16 girls on the team, which is incredible. 16. 2 of them are injured, however, and are not playing this season with serious injuries. But today was the 7th grade class of 2029 season opener for their official MSHSL season, coached by the veteran coach, the one and only wonderful Gary Rogers, who is playing with, has 14 players. They played 2 halves tonight at Kimball Elementary School, and played a good game. They were rough at times offensively, but they played pretty good defense. And it was special. Come on. Oh boy. It was special for me because my daughter is returned from injury. returned from surgery, returning from surgery last August. Only 6 months ago, she had major surgery at Rochester Mayo, but she played today. I had her for at least 4 blocked shots. She played good defense. Has to work on offense though, but that'll come. We're so overjoyed to have Gary Rogers leading that team, and they have a wide array of skills and experience. They have some very new players. They even have a player that came back who played in the COVID season when they were in 4th grade. She didn't play in 5th and 6th grade, and they got her back on the team. Now, how wonderful is that? So they got their numbers up to 14, not counting the 2 injured. So they got something really exciting going with a huge turnout in that group. This compares to what other schools are suffering through. And even in our own girls basketball program, we have only 3 sophomores out, which is not good. You need to have good turnout across all seasons. And I harp on that all the time. You know that, my regular followers. But they've got something special going. I believe they have a strong possibility where they could have 8 to 12, I'm hoping 10 or more of this group finish as seniors, because they have a lot of talent across the whole roster. So it's an exciting opportunity for them to keep that number high, that turnout strong, and not have the traditional attrition as you go up the grades. The numbers dwindle. I spoke and wrote extensively about the Big Five, the great 5 seniors we had on our 3rd place state tournament team last year. Well, they were in 4th grade. They had 17 players. But by 9th grade, it was down to just those 5. Now, of course, they were great. They were 5 outstanding players. But depth would have helped them even as well. If they could have kept a few more girls out, it would have been in their favor. I believe by 7th grade, they were actually only down to 8. So the attrition across 6th and 7th grade was horrible. Their turnout was basically cut in half in only 2 years. You don't want to see that. You need to keep these kids out in activities. They have got to stay active. So how do you make these kids feel important? You have to make them feel valued and important. And I tell you what, in this game at ACGC, every bucket counted. Every player that stepped on the floor. And we had 9th graders and older. We had 9th through 12th graders on this varsity team tonight playing. I've got Tegan Dingman, freshman, 4 points. She made 2 field goals. We got sophomore Tiffany Dingman, 3 points. Casey Fisher, sophomore, she made 1 free throw, but it was a huge free throw. I mean, think about it. Coach Anderson said with about 90 seconds left, the Falcons pulled ahead with a 3-pointer. So we're talking X's and O's here on that on the chart. It adds up. Every possession counted. Every player mattered in this win tonight. And it's conference, yes, it's not a section win, but every win every win is important because it helps them on the QRF. ACGC had a winning record as a Class 1A school. They compete in Section 2A. But every win is huge at this point, as the Jaguars are battling to climb in the subsection standings to try and get out of that 3rd and 4th spot. They got to get out of that spot to allow them to build momentum to go into playoffs, because looming large is, actually I'm going to get it wrong, but I believe it's Bram. Unfortunately, we're in Bram's side of the Section 5A. Bram is very good, and I don't want to see them until a championship setting. So back to my point, turnout is huge. I'm upset because right now apparently there's only 12 kids in speech, which I think is embarrassing for our school. What on earth there's only 12 kids in speech out of grades 7 through 12? What is going on there? Do families think that their children don't need that experience learning how to speak in public and how to conduct themselves in settings like an interview? So I'm really miffed about that. I'm very upset about that. On a good note, we have great turnout in robotics. Coach Adrian doesn't have a complete roster, but they are led by 4 seniors, and I'm going to look them up here. He just sent me that, and it's worth pointing out. Jeff Seelar, Owen Paulson, Davin Preble, and Odin Jensen. I'm going to call them our Big Four. The Big Four on the robotics team this year. And I hope to get more. I'll be getting more coverage on robotics as we go through their build season, leading up to their regional. Their kickoff was just this past Saturday. So, want to give shout out to the wrestlers. They go to Minnewaska for a 10-team invitational tomorrow at 4 p.m., starting at 4 p.m. on Friday at Minnewaska. The Pirouettes B.B. Paynesville dance team is at ACGC, where our girls basketball team was tonight. They are at an invitational, a dance comp, this Saturday starting at 11 a.m. And my daughter and her 7th graders host Maple Lake tomorrow, looking to go to 2-0. They host at the high school for their home opener of their 7th grade season. The 7th graders are the entire junior high program right now, because our 8th graders were had to be absorbed into the varsity program so we can complete and fill out a JV and C squad teams. So you've got to have turnout, and you've got to have teammates and coaches that foster an environment of positivity and encouragement to keep your turnout high. Now, you, of course, have to have expectations about effort and how hard you work in practice, but you want to have an environment where everyone feels valued and important. And that's one way to keep your turnout high. Turnout is extremely valuable, especially in a small school. You have to make everyone feel valued. Tonight, a good example in this 7th grade game, in the first half, a couple players really stood out, sparking the team with really good hustle. And all through the years, think of the great basketball coaches you know, whether it's Tom Jansen at Eden Valley or Coach Bergman in Sauk Center, Mike Dreyer at New London, Coach Anderson at our B.B.E. High School. Some of the greatest coaches in central Minnesota for sure. You fly to the ball. You loose ball. You know, you have coaches who challenge their players to say, you will get every loose ball. We own every loose ball. That's how you win basketball games. And tonight, we actually had built a 19-10 lead in the first half because they were hustling after loose balls. But then the last couple minutes, we went on a slide, and the Cubs caught up. We're up 19-16 at halftime. Then early in the second half, it was tied. The Cubs, I believe, had a brief one-possession lead. So it's neck and neck. And luckily, we pulled through in the end. We had much better depth. Kimball only dressed 6 players. So our depth got to them at the end. We won 43-36. But I told one of the players who made a big mistake in the last final seconds on an inadvertent foul that she shouldn't have fouled in the final seconds. So she was pretty upset after the game. But I went and I told her afterwards, the spark she gave in the first half was big because it helped prevent some transition shots by the Cubs. And imagine this, in one possession games, every possession matters and every defensive possession matters. And if you can apply the pressure to thwart 1 or 2 of these shots, or even attempts down the floor, Oh, for Pete's sakes. There we go. That's how you win basketball games. Of course, hustling and flying to the ball. So, you got to make everyone feel valued and everyone feel important. That's how you keep programs running at a high level, and that's simply how you should run a school, especially a public school. You've got to make sure everyone feels valued and important. And of course, yes, you want them to work hard and pay attention to the coach, be good listeners, and follow along. But you gotta have depth, and you need to make everyone feel important. Time to go back out in the deep freeze. I got a little snow to move.